In the greatness that you're about to witness, I said I was going to judge some knives over the ratios, the handle to blade ratio. I'd love to know what the golden ratio is for a folder. So I still want your input, but it's kind of an incomplete video. So know that up front. Also know this up front. Nobody does it better than Code Steel. All right. Yeah, we got that out of the way. No lanyard toe. What if I run out of handle? What is going on, people? Listen, today is going to be a discussion video. This is a 10-inch knife right here. I just want to talk about blade to handle ratio when it comes to folders. Now, the golden rule when it comes to fixed blades is a 1 to 1.6 ratio. So assuming you got a 4-inch handle, you're going to want a 6-inch blade, 6.1, 6.2 inch blade, something like that. So that's the ratio when it comes to fixed blades. I've never seen anybody talk about a golden ratio when it comes to folders. In my opinion, a 6-inch handle and a 4-inch blade is a little offset. You know, I mean, we've seen 6-inch blades that can house a 5-inch blade. I'm sorry, a 6-inch handle that can house a 5-inch blade just fine. But with the triad lock system and most Demco knives, we see that the pivot is sitting a little further back. It's probably just the way it has to be designed. I'm not sure. But anyway, we're going to judge some knives today. And I'm going to decide whether I feel like the handle blade ratio is acceptable in a folder. Which, I mean, they all are. And it's all going to be within your parameters, you know, as to how you feel about it. But and chime in. And thanks to everybody that watches. And if you enjoy this kind of crap, consider subscribing. We appreciate having you around. First up, we got the AD15. Really doesn't stand out to me as being one of those knives that has a really crazy offset. We got a 3.6-inch blade, supposedly according to Blade HQ. I'm looking at about 3.75 inches. And I'm not talking about the cutting edge. I'm just talking about the blade, you know, from the tip to the edge of the handle here. So we have about a 3.7-inch blade, but we have an 8-inch knife, 8.5-inch knife overall. And the AD15 is kind of unique in the fact that the tang of the blade actually sticks out the end of the knife here, but the handle length is a little under 5. It's just short of 5 inches. Let's lay it like this, line it up like that. So yeah, about 4 and 4.75, something like that. If you add the tang of the blade, obviously the closed length is actually right at 5 inches. I like these parameters. This is a very common area where you'll see this size knife. You'll have about 5-inch handle and a 3.5-inch blade. There's other knives out there like that. This one, as a matter of fact, you know, you got a 3.5-inch blade or a little over 3.5-inch blade. Well, just a second, let me back that tip up. Yeah, you got a 3.5-inch blade exactly, and about a 5-inch handle for an 8.5-inch knife. Nobody ever really complains about the PM2, but you know, it's one of those knives where it doesn't look as proportional as the AD15, in my opinion. Of course, opinions are like assholes, but and maybe it's because of the height of the blade, where you actually have more meat on the blade, where, you know, and then the handles are fairly similar. Obviously, AD15 handle is a little bit larger, you know, wider than the PM2, but I don't know, it's just kind of weird, isn't it? That looks standard. This looks a little short. Just perception. I think the Kershaw bare knuckle actually gives you about as much as you could possibly ask for with a 3 and a, well, it's a 3.5-inch blade. This is one of those unique blade styles where you actually get more cutting edge than you actually have blade length, due to the belly and due to the fact that the handle comes to like a point there in the center of the blade. So you get this like 3.5-inch blade if you measure from here to the tip, but you have an 8.25-inch knife. Is that right? No. Maybe just barely over 8 inches. Maybe an 8.25-inch knife. So like that's about as good as you can possibly get. That might be the champion of the day. I don't know, but you know, just in terms of blade to handle ratio, 'Cause, you know, with a folder, you can't really produce a folder unless you get crazy with engineering to have a blade that actually, you know, is longer than the handle. There is that one knife out there. I can't remember what it's called. Another 3.5 inch blade and another 8.5 inch knife, you know, closed up. We're gonna be looking at a 5-inch knife. I guess the knife that actually got me started in on all this little, you know, this mind fuck is this knife right here. I got it in the mail, and this is probably maybe the third or fourth AD10 that I've had. But this one is the first Tanto that I've ever had, and as soon as I flipped it open, I was like, wow, it's a funny looking knife. Why? And I love Tantos, don't get me wrong. You know, like I do. I know some of you guys don't like Tantos for the job tasks that I do, my ADC carries. You know, this portion right here actually helps me out quite a lot. I cut a lot of shrink wrap and plastic and stuff, and this keeps you in the cut. And I really enjoy having that part of the blade there. Tantos actually work for me. But, you know, I mean, we're still looking at a 3.5 inch blade, but we're looking at an 8 3/4 inch knife. You know, so like we're getting, where is that sweet spot where it gets to the point where it's going over or getting unacceptable? I'm not saying this is unacceptable. I'm gonna love this knife. But what I'm saying is, like, there's some knives that do it and some knives that, like, let it go. How about this Magnum Works? You got a 3.5 inch blade and you got an 8 1/4 inch knife. And a lot of people, whenever I did the first video on this, they're like, the blade looks a lot like it's a lot shorter. They could have gave you more blade there. But really, it's got better parameters than even, say, the AD15, because it's a shorter handle, same length blade. Yeah, it's 4 3/4 inch handle. Spyderco Endura, overall 8 3/4 inch knife with a 4-inch blade. So, you know, like, you're looking at a pretty, yeah, if they can do that with one Spyderco, they could do it with all. I mean, it's really not that much longer than a PM2, right? Where's the PM2? There they are, closed up next to each other, and we see that both of them, you know, this is a 5-inch closed knife and this is a 4.75 inch closed knife. Like, the way they're actually going to carry in the pocket's going to be very similar, but again, we got a lock back and the pivot seems to be further back or just as far back, but we have way more blade. Is it a design thing? You know, and designing folders isn't something that I know anything about, but you know, it would appear to me that it's more of a design factor. So anyway, yeah, you guys can vote on these. Here's another Demco knife. It's AD20.5 with a 3-inch blade and a 7.5 inch overall length, and that brings the handle, or the closed length, to yeah, about 4.5. And sometimes, I guess, maybe your best ratios are going to be coming in slip joint formats. Also, some of your silliest, but in this case, you got a 3 1/4 inch blade, or, you know, closer to 3.5, probably a 3.3 inch blade with 3-inch cutting edge, and it's 7.5 inches. Not even quite 7.5 inches, maybe a 7 1/4 of an inch, something like that. And this is just a Case Mini Trapper, right? Or yeah, I think it's a Case Mini Trapper. Okay. Another one of those examples. This is a 94 Boker of some extent. This is the long blade. You got a 6-inch knife all together. You got a 2.5 or maybe 2 3/4 inch long blade. And that's, I don't know the model of this one actually, but anyway, yeah, that's a pretty good ratio, right? And this is a Congress, a Boker Congress. So like this knife actually has a 2 1/4 inch blade, the same 6 inches. That's the long blade. That's on the knife. So like when they're open, they're going to be about the same length. But obviously, you know, like, this knife has a much better ratio than this one does. Like, of course, we could have got more blade for our dollar in the Congress, but they did give it to us in this model. Same company. You know, it's 94, it's like 76. But, you know, the Congress is still made this way. Coming in at barely over 7 inches, you have this Kershaw Bel Air with a 3-inch blade, or 3-inch cutting edge, with about a 3 1/4 inch blade, and it's yeah, I guess pocket clip included because it sticks out so far. Extreme deep carry is what they call it. You got a 7-inch overall length, but with the pocket clip sticking out, it goes about 7 1/4. But anyway, man, just a discussion video. Like, have any of you guys ever like paid attention to all this blade handle ratio when it comes to folding knives? You know, like if you start looking it up, you'll start getting a lot of numbers. For swords, like Japan has a golden ratio. For fixed blades, there's a golden ratio. That's 1 to 1.6. And then for folders, you just don't really find a lot. You either find people that just say, hey, you know, like the knife looks funny because it's out of proportion. And then sometimes the knife can be out of proportion and actually look pretty damn good. I really like the looks of that Magnum Marks, by the way. You know, like, and it's not, I don't know, like the proportions are actually better on that Magnum Marks than it is on the Paramilitary 2. I don't really hear a whole lot of people complaining, but man, let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoy this kind of content, don't know why you would, but if you do, subscribe. Thanks to all the members and the patrons, and for the support. And yeah, we'll catch you on the flip side.